Our presenter today, our main presenter today is Brian Solis. We're really excited to have Brian on. He is the Global Innovation Evangelist at Salesforce. He's actually also 8-time best-selling author and much, much more. So we're very excited to have Brian on today. Thank you for joining us. And we've also got Viralu Mihailovic, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Flowsum, who is going to be managing the discussion after Brian's presentation. So V, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you at this point.
All right, thank you so much. We're all really excited to have this conversation with you here today. Our plan today is Brian has a presentation, and then we will have a roundtable afterwards where we'll be addressing some key concerns and topics and any thoughts that you might have. So Brian, please take it away.
Thanks, V. Excited to be here with everyone. Excited to have this opportunity to share some observations and then also have a conversation afterwards. If you have any questions that we don't get to, let us know. I'm sure that we can figure out a way to get those questions channeled and we can create something as a follow-up for you. So I have this little joke that nothing says innovation and transformation like PowerPoint slides. So I'm going to just fire this up and get rocking and rolling. So today's topic is the role of new age business creators in the novel economy. And certainly in the world of TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, creators have created their own economy. And the same is actually true for business, that in the face of just IT innovation, in the face of digitization, in the face of increasing disruption in terms of new technologies that are constantly on the rise, we're only going to get busier. So let's talk about that. One of the things that I have studied going back to the 90s with every major technology revolution that has disrupted either the consumer marketplace or businesses or the enterprise or both or all of the above, it's constant. It's a constant evolution of digital Darwinism, which is technology is going to continue to evolve, to disrupt. Who saw ChatGPT coming a year ago? Well, some of us did, but I mean, just in terms of your daily use or weekly use of it, to see how many people have adopted it so quickly. And there's always something. And so the idea of digital Darwinism is, are we, one, keeping a horizontal view, two, adapting how we work, three, experimenting with new ways to work, and four, remodeling ourselves to keep up with what exists, what doesn't need to exist, and what we need to do to be better, faster, more efficient, scalable, profitable as well, but also innovative. We can't just get so caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of the fact that just because we did something one way yesterday, just because we have a backlog of stuff that is past due, doesn't mean that we can't figure out new ways to move forward, because that's going to be the constant. And it's only going to get faster, and it's only going to become more intense. So this is actually the right moment to think about how to be better and how to be different and how to be innovative. And that's the irony of the enterprise. The bigger we get, the more complex we get, the more vulnerable to digital Darwinism we become. But remember, Darwinism isn't just something that can happen to you, it can happen because of you, meaning that you adapt, you evolve, and you explore opportunities to work differently to set the stage. Because it certainly isn't going to come from the CEO in terms of where that relief needs to come from. In fact, where it's going to come from is you. Making the case, demonstrating the challenge, demonstrating the business impact, right? It's not just technology, it's this business impact, learning how to balance the language of technology, but also the language of the C-suite. Because digital savviness, according to MIT Sloan, well, actually in MIT research, is not something that actually exists among CEOs. In fact, just 7% of large companies have digitally savvy executive teams, and I think that's even a stretch. But the reality is those organizations that do have digitally savvy leaders outperform their peers. So the work that you do, not just keeping up with the to-do list, not just keeping up with the apps and the management and the implementations, it is about how well you build bridges to the business side of things, because that's whom it impacts, right? The business. So business leaders, business users, and then the ultimate users of these things externally. And that leads us to where we are today. We were on this trajectory in 2019. We had our priorities, we had our roadmaps, we had our to-do lists, and then, of course, March of 2020 sort of put a fissure in that trajectory. And we got really busy again. I think also, not only did we get really busy, we also became incredibly diligent. We learned that we can do some really incredible things pretty quickly, things that we didn't even think were possible. And look at us now. And as a result, that's put us on a new trajectory. So our team at MuleSoft identified 7 trends shaping digital transformation this year. So automation is going to continue to surge as companies aim to do more with less, especially now that CFO is involved in a lot of technology investments. Composability becomes part of the business strategy to drive innovation and more importantly, agility, to keep up with what we have to do in order to free up the resources and the mindset for innovation. Non-technical users will use low-code and no-code tools and automation to accelerate transformation. So said another way, citizen developers, business users. Organizations will also invest in total experience strategies to drive greater customer and employee loyalty and advocacy, right? With all this pressure, with all this stress, with all this speed, we have to also consider employee experience, your teams, users. So now we think about implementation, we think about transformation as this total experience. Organizations will increasingly automate data-driven decision intelligence to reduce the huge costs of wasted opportunities and also the huge costs of just wasted time and missed opportunities. Business isn't the only thing changing, right? Markets are shifting, markets are evolving. Every new technology that your customer or your customer's customer gets their hands on, the more they start to change. So the work that you're doing to help businesses transform, to help businesses keep up, is actually helping them become more competitive. What you do creates a competitive advantage because it is absolutely tied to operations. And even though I put 7 trends here, I realized that I think I'm only going to get through 6 before we get to the next slide. Cybersecurity is becoming more and more important. And that is just because we're exposing ourselves in more ways than we did in 2019. Think more apps, citizen development, think things like IoT or IIoT that are feeding data. For example, we're doing some incredible things with software in essentially hardware or appliances that are incredible opportunities. And so we have to keep security in mind as we're looking into our implementations. Look, another thing to really think about is that as we start to accelerate app development, DevOps, DevSecOps, we're going to have to think about ensuring that what we're doing isn't actually increasing technical debt. And I'll tell you that in a lot of meetings that I have, I am watching decisions just because of the pressure, also because of economic uncertainty. I'm watching a lot of decisions made that might be easier, less costly, maybe because of existing relationships. They're going to complicate the long-term viability of the work that's being done today. And it's certainly not going to be done to the standard or the expectations of the ultimate customer, meaning that it's going to cause complexity, technical debt. It's going to maybe even create risk of not being in a strategic position in terms of a competitive advantage, they're going to have to go and unwind that work in order to get to where they probably should have been at the beginning. And it's counterintuitive. I totally get it. Batten down the hatches, reduce costs, do more with less. Yes, yes, yes. But it's also in these times that we see some of the greatest transformations, some of the greatest innovations, because no one wants to show up on the other side being behind. Those leaders, those bold leaders, those courageous leaders, those visionary leaders, those who believe in their work and the outcomes of their work, realize that on the other side is actually greatness, success, performance, competitiveness, all the good things. Because it's not slowing down, right? I know you feel this. I know you see this. And it's creating an incredible innovation bottleneck, not just a backlog, but a bottleneck towards competitiveness. In fact, the more resources we aim at delivering yesterday's projects and the less resources we aim at doing the things that are going to help the business work better, faster, more efficiently, are ultimately going to play out not just in technical debt, but it's just going to lose footing. Let's just put it that way. By the way, I'll make sure you get a copy of this deck and we'll include links to all of this research, but we are creating complexity just out of speed. You know, apps are on the rise for sure, but integration isn't. You know, if you think about the business user, if you think about how they're using technology to serve their customers or their stakeholders, these things have to be integrated. In fact, most customers or customers' customers want to see that integration, and they see the lack of integration actually as a negative experience, strike, something that they keep in mind for when they think about the businesses that they want to work with. And certainly there are a lot of things that are coming up, like platform engineering, which is sort of stacking on top of mature DevOps, you know, to create standardized self-service infrastructure that essentially operates on a platform, right? So it helps developers get up and running quickly. It enables fast flow software delivery. And we're starting to see platform engineering get deployed as a means of keeping up, right? So improving reliability, efficiency, speeding up delivery time, improving workflow, and not having to recreate the wheel each time. In fact, platform engineering last year made Gartner's famous hype cycle for emerging tech. It's in the lower left, so it means it's sort of on its rise. How it plays out, you know, it's ultimately up to you. And I think that's where I'd like to take this conversation, is how things play out is ultimately up to you. Meaning that the novel economy, what makes this a novel economy isn't just the fact that we were disrupted and that things changed. It's also an opportunity. Picture yourself standing at an intersection, maybe with 3 different roads. How you allocate your bandwidth, your resources, and also your mindset is going to determine where we end up in 2024, 2025, 2030. Right? Because no one wants to keep up the backlog and doing things that were meant for yesterday's world, when in fact we have to think about how to perform toward 2030. So the novel economy was inspired by the novel coronavirus, but novel in particular because it just means new and unusual, which implies that there is no playbook for this. Disruption doesn't say, hey, go back to your 2019 playbook and let's figure out how to make 2019 the new 2030. It's really about how do we not just survive and not how we just stay alive or keep up with everything. It's how we thrive. So one way is to digitize existing processes, create apps, do the things that we did yesterday, just more optimized, scalable, maybe automated. Another way to look at our roadmap is, are we doing what is inherently digital first for the business user and maybe the ultimate user or the ultimate beneficiary of that use case or that app? And are we also looking at opportunities to create net new value? What did we not see before, and what can we create that doesn't just have to be created, but could be created to do something different? unlock new value. And it's these three things that we have to really be strategic about. We have to think about, because it's very easy to focus on digitization. There's more than enough work. But the difference between digitization and innovation is that it leads to using apps, technology, APIs, integration, stacks, however you think about it, in an iterative fashion, doing what we did yesterday, just better, faster, more efficient, more scalable. You need both iteration and innovation to compete for the future. I've spent a lot of time, not just within Salesforce, but also with our customers, looking at ways that Salesforce can help accelerate time to value within the organization, help IT, and also help business users get the most out of the platform. And that's led to a lot of innovations from within Salesforce around low code and no code solutions. And it is creating what we call citizen developers, or what I called in CIO business creators. And that was just because I was inspired by the creator economy. The creator economy is changing the entire media landscape from the consumer perspective. Business creators actually, I think, have the opportunity to be partners with IT to transform the business, not just placing the burden on IT leadership and IT itself. In fact, most IT leaders see that citizen or business creators are going to be the beneficiaries and also the enablers of this shift. And that most are going to, with proper training, governance, security, of course, processes, be part of this solution, which sets the stage for the next generation of, I think, this union, strategic alliance between IT and business. Business creators can create that bridge. Most believe this will free up IT to focus on more complex initiatives. It will help reduce the backlog, but more importantly, it becomes a force multiplier in this novel economy. And I want to give credit to V, because those are V's words. We were talking about this, and this is how he sees it. And after he said that, it's like, yep, you're absolutely right. This is the force multiplier in the novel economy. It's going to help you move differently, faster, better across this idea between iteration and innovation. You can do both. You can take traditional elements and you can change them. You can contribute to better experiences, deliver new features. You could help IT overcome challenges in the business climate, and more importantly, could set the stage for more innovation work. Chris Gardner over at Forrester did want to call attention, though, as the faster we do this, the more mindful of security we also have to be. We needed to do that anyway, because what we're essentially creating is a new paradigm for how we work. You're creating a 2025, let's say, paradigm for right now. That old saying about, and popular saying about, how do you fix the airplane or rebuild the airplane while it's in the air? Well, you just do it. And we just have to be mindful along the way. So I'm going to close out with a couple of things. I want to remind you of the importance of the work that you do. It is how we work. It's how we empower one another. It's how we make each other feel safe, that it is okay to move in these new directions. And I want to leave you with some words from Johnny Ive. Because whenever someone has an idea about doing something new, what he points out is the only tangible thing about that new idea are the problems that everybody sees with it. Whether it's cost, complexity, not enough time, we've got this other backlog of things we have to focus on. So when someone says it's not possible, you have to think and behave in a different way. This is sort of like how I think about the language of the C-suite, getting business support, getting business to drive new resources. I worked with the CEO of a B2B brand recently, and doing this, thinking in a different way, demonstrating the possibilities, demonstrating likely scenarios for outcomes now and over time helps make the business case. So you have to say from a place of courage, I believe that it is possible, and not only possible, but this is a greater opportunity for all of us. And as a result of that work, the CEO turned to the CIO and said, we are going to give you the resources to manage and build and innovate, because we see how important this is for our business today, their customers, and ultimately their market share, their position in the market. So really, innovation is just a code word for leadership. And what I want to remind you is that innovation is about becoming an innovative leader, empowering people around you who then in turn inspire new leaders, because we're not going to get to 2030 with that 2019 mindset. And this is your time to build, innovate, and partner to grow. So with that, thank you so much. V, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
I absolutely wonderfully said, Brian. Thank you so much. So we're going to have a roundtable right now. We have some topics, and if anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, feel free to jot them down here, and we'll handle it for you. You've said so many things really wonderfully put and well said about citizen development. But one of these things that we were noticing as you were mentioning your conversation, taking a look at the things that are going through hype cycles, we had a quick sidebar about what is old is new again. And I think everyone on the call is dealing with some of this happening again. Why are we, it's 2023. Why are we still talking about digital transformation today?
I think I wrote one of the first reports on the subject that tried to break out digital transformation from the traditional IT conversation. This is when I was an analyst before joining Salesforce, which showed that the real opportunity for digital transformation was in shifting from technical to business to user or customer, humanizing the process of what we're doing and why. It would change the roadmap. And the reason why we're still talking about it today is because we're stuck in digitization. We're stuck in the digitization of old processes without questioning whether or not there's a better way, different way, an entirely new way to do something that delivers new value. And that's the conversation that I'm having a lot with customers today, is that there's more digital than transformation. And the word itself implies that we can do something new while also improving other things. So I think so. It's a mindset, V, and it's a mindset that I feel is probably going to play out more in 2023, probably for the future. No one knowingly wants to change because change is hard, but the outcomes and the results are better on the other side of transformation.
Yeah, and maybe talk to some of these conversations that you're having. What are some cultural changes that need to be made? You mentioned the culture of DevOps. There's this new term called platform engineering, where it's fully integrated. All of these different set of folks are all using these tools. So what do you think are elements of a team that is going to be high performing in the new economic realities of today? What are some cultural shifts that you think people need to really pay attention to?
One of our customers is, had me in to talk to their developers, and the message that they wanted to give to their developers, the only reason they brought me in was to inspire them to become the leaders that they think they need in the organization. Rather than saying, why doesn't someone do this, or why can't we get this? You go and do it. So leadership in that case was sort of empowering them to go and do these great things, all with the alignment around what that vision is, the purpose is, and what, where our measured goals were. And that's rudimentary, like what culture is all about. It's not a vision statement. It's not a mission statement. It is how we work, how we feel about that work, where we're going together and why, and do we have that shared vision? So a company I've done a lot of work with in the past is called Keep Gaping Void. They're a really great company. They've developed what they call culture science, and it's the human science, the behavioral science, the psychology, the semiotics of how culture works. So you have this future motivating state, where we're going to and why. We establish the norm so we know that we feel safe. These are the things that we can do. And not only are we feeling safe doing these things, we're going to be rewarded as a result of doing these different things. And this is what success looks like so that we can all share in that success. And that has to come from somewhere so that everybody can rise up to be that leader of tomorrow. So that's in a basic sense what culture really is about.
Hmm. And then you bring up some really good points here, and something I picked up on the conversation you're having is you came into a room full of developers, and I think we have an intimate audience here who understands the trials, the tribulations. We mentioned something really vital in the conversation: the force multiplier that you will have by bringing citizen developers on that journey. Can you maybe tell everyone here, that is a journey onto itself. You want to talk about how that will shape out our trends in future development over the next couple of years as the citizen developer gets enabled and more of this, specific tooling is there to create that force multiplier?
Well, first you have to define what that force multiplier is, right? And say in this case, it's citizen development. And then there has to be a story that goes along with that. Let me I know we're not, we don't have all the time in the world, so I'll be as quick as I can, but I have to say this. A lot of reasons why we're stuck in digitization versus digital transformation is because we're not thinking about the people who use the bridges when we build the bridges. And this is more important as everyone, consumers and business users, become more familiar with how to use TikTok than the apps that they have at work, for example. So we have to empower our business users, our citizen developers, to feel like they play a part in this role of making a better bridge, that they're empowered to do these things. We have to tell that story so that they want to be part of that story. What success looks like, what experience looks like all the way around. And that's, I think, a real wonderful opportunity for IT to start to build that bridge toward business users, to the business side. And I also think in the process of making this case for rolling out for citizen development, that IT becomes a more valued organization within the business itself.
And that's absolutely critical. And I think finally, taking a look at from the novel economy and all these force multipliers, I think you mentioned really quickly that there are many threats and openings that can be potentially exposed. So doing this, what do you think are some pitfalls potentially would be if you don't pay attention to security as you're driving innovation?
Oh man, one of our core values right there at the top is trust. And trust is, once you lose it, it's just, we don't even have to go there. It's just a big deal. And you're building and you're designing and you're architecting and you're ensuring trust. I have a customer that, like when we look at technical debt, the same thing can be for security. We have a customer that had a pretty big breach, and we're working on helping them. And it wasn't a breach on anything from Salesforce perspective, I just have to say, but it was just the mindset that we're bringing in from our trust principles to help them see from that perspective now in the work moving forward, that the idea of working towards trust, then you have to create what are the pillars for that trust? What are the things that we're not doing that we need to do to ensure that we're making trust a value? So that's really important, that it has to become something more than the way that we think about it in terms of boxes checked, because the more digital that you become, the more exposed you become. And I think that's why Forrester, in that article, and when we share this deck, the link will be in there. was raising the alarm. We're moving fast. We got to think about a lot of things. I get it. There's a lot of things to think about, but trust.
Yep, it has to
trust,
be put into
trust
the
is a value.
process. Yeah, put into the
Absolutely.
process. Thank you, everyone, for attending the webinar. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to send an email to us. We'll make sure that they're answered. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Brian.
Thank you.